Welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of the Bench Mob Ent podcast. Before we even get into everything that's happening for the show, if you're listening to this right now, stop, pause it, scroll down, give us that 5-star rating and a 5-star review, share it with a friend. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please go subscribe, hit the subscribe button right there below, and turn on your notifications so you know when Bench Mob drops any content, shorts, full form, anything like that. You won't miss it. And of course, share it with a friend. Now, typically during this time, after the draft happens, after you have the NBA finals, that whole thing happens. You got July, part of the beginning of August. It's kind of slow for sports. But this year, it's been on and popping. And we're going to touch on all of that on this episode. Of course, Jaylen Brown and that big contract. Who's going to be the player to get $400 million contract? NFL running backs want to get paid. Justin Herbert got paid. It's a lot we touching on in this episode. Make sure you lock in. It's going to be a good one. So we starting off the episode right here, of course, with Jaylen Brown's contract. Now I'm going to read it to make sure I get all the information right. Jaylen Brown signed a 5-year, $304 million extension. After taxes, escrow, all that good stuff, it comes out to around $24.5 million per year. Now this contract has Jaylen Brown as the richest player in NBA history, the richest contract, I should say, in NBA history. This is the first of its kind of a $300 million contract. The first $100 million contract was Juwan Howard. The $200 million contract, the first ever $200 million contract was Stephen Curry. And now we have the first ever $300 million contract in Jaylen Brown. This is generational, life-changing, life-altering money. Sports has come a very long way. And I could really understand why some of the old heads be hating like, oh, I could have played in this era. They weren't making nowhere near this kind of money. Like I said, the first $100 million contract was Juwan Howard, and that was over, I think, 7 years in 1996 or something. I heard T-Mac talking about he had a max contract that was at $97 million. That was a max back then. That was a super max back then. $300 million for Jaylen Brown. Now, some may say he doesn't deserve it. He dribbles with one hand. He can't do everything that Jason Tatum can do. But guess what? In this situation, the Boston Celtics really had no other choice but to sign Jaylen Brown. When you look at Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, they're both under 28 years old and already has had that much success. You're not going to break that up. You're not getting another Jaylen Brown walking through the door right now. And I think people are disregarding the aspect of continuity and chemistry. In sports like basketball, in sports like football, chemistry, continuity is needed. Let's look at the Denver Nuggets. That team stayed together. The core stayed together, and they got a chip. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, I am very confident that in this span of the next 5 years, they're going to get a ring. Some may say at least one, but I know they're going to. I'm confident that they can get a ring. That tandem right there. Two super duper talented people. And I don't know why people are upset with Jaylen Brown's contract. That's somebody that you would want to root for. He's not only good on the court, but he's conscious off court. He does stuff to try to help the community, and specifically the Black community. They asked this man, what are you going to do with all of this money that came in? And he responded, he wants to bring Black Wall Street to Boston. He wants to help with the wealth gap between the blacks and the whites and help close that gap. This is what is on this man's mind when he makes the $300 million. We all know of the athletes that don't give a darn about the community, don't give a darn about their race, their heritage, none of that. So for him to do that, I'm rooting for Jaylen Brown just off of that alone. course, he's a good player. Of course, the thing y'all forget, he's only 26 years old. If you think Jaylen Brown is done, he's nowhere else to go, you're sadly mistaken. Jaylen Brown has so much more to do, so much better he can be. His ceiling, there really isn't any ceiling. And it's perfect because he got Tatum there. Both of them put together and they put the right squad around them, they'll get a ring. The concern, which is a valid one with this new CBA, they're going to have to get real fancy, real smart with how they going to do this cap. That's the only concern, how they going to fill out the team. Their window really might be this 3 to 5 years right here because of how the cap is set up with Jaylen Brown, and Jason Tatum got to get paid too. Jason Tatum has to get paid, is without a doubt. And if JB got 304, Tatum got to get somewhere like 350, 360 at least, something around that range. Now, some are saying, oh, he could get 400 mil. I would pay him. He's not eligible for that amount of money. Now, you know who is eligible for that amount of money. 2026, the summer of 2026, Nikola Jokic will be the first player eligible based off of his stats, his accolades, his contract extension in the summer of 2026. Nikola Jokic can get $400 million for 5 years from the Denver Nuggets. Yeah, this is where the money is going. The cap is constantly rising. And if anybody deserves that $400 million, it's Nikola Jokic for sure. Now, there's other players that deserve it too, but they're not going to be eligible for it. Nikola don't have to win another MVP. He don't have to do no other awards, and he's eligible for $400 million. Now, the interesting piece, that summer, there's 3 other players that can get that $400 million on their extension. I'm going to tell y'all the 3 players. Ja Morant, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and Zion Williamson. Now, between those 3 right there, guns and buns, I don't know if they're going to get the 400 mil. I don't know if the teams are going to be willing and want to actually pay that 400 mil to them. You got to see how they bounce back. Ja Morant is definitely box office, hands down. Box office, deserves every penny that he ends up getting. He gets that jump shot going. Hey, it's going to be scary for the league. If he get a consistent jump shot, he reminds me of D Rose when D Rose came into the league. Super athletic, could get to anywhere he want on the floor. The jump shot was what was missing. And Ja Morant, the other thing too, is health. With how he attacks the rim at that slim frame he has, if I'm Memphis, I'm asking this man the whole summer to not, be focused on shooting guns, but, get a shooting gun for your jump shot. That's what I would be asking him to do. Because if he get a jump shot, that unlocks everything for the whole team. Now, to me, you're talking about, all right, Memphis is a championship contender. Outside of that, he'll probably get the 400, but my best candidate would be Shai. Zion, we already know what's going on with Zion. When Zion's healthy, top 10 in the league. When Zion's healthy, top 10 in the league. He can do everything. Box office. When he was healthy, the Pelicans was in a championship conversation. They was a top 3 seed. I just need Zion to be healthy. Whatever you got to do, whatever diet you got to change, please change it. We as the fans want to see it. Zion, B.I., C.J. McCollum, Alvarado, Herb Jones. That's a great team they're building over there in New Orleans. The missing piece is Zion being healthy. Have the child be healthy. Don't worry about the porn star and all that good stuff. Just come out and ball, please. We all want to see it. But out of those 3 players, the one that I think for sure, more than likely, guaranteed, I would give the $400 million with no problem, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Whoo! That boy is cold. That boy is nasty. Shea Gilgeous is the smooth operator. Pay him for sure. OKC, that's the player that y'all would pay without a doubt. For sure. I mean, when you look at it, those three players and the money is just going to keep growing with the salary cap. But the brightest future, I think, out there because it's just basketball, Shea Gilgeous Alexander for me. Now, during this last couple of weeks, conversation comes up with T Mac, Paul Pierce, two GOATs, two legends about their legacy. Now, we see this all the time every year, whether it's the summertime, whether it's during the season. The OGs always end up having conversations about, I could have played in this era. If I had a ring, this would change this. T Mac mentioned if he had a ring, his legacy would have been viewed differently. He would have been able to be in the conversation with the Kobe's, with the Mikes. We all know, which he alluded to, the talent was there. T Mac's talent for the injuries. It was T Mac and Kobe. If T Mac doesn't get injured, I'm a Kobe guy, but I don't know if Kobe gets all the rings. I don't know if Kobe has some of the success. If T Mac is healthy, T Mac, it was him. It was 1A, 1B, whoever you wanted to put there. T Mac was a dog. And for anybody that doubt his legacy, you just don't know basketball, and I don't want to have a conversation with you. There's nothing that needs to be said if you are trashing, doubting T Mac in any way. YouTube is free, man. Go Google basketball reference. All those sites are free. Go check it out. T Mac is really that guy. Now, Paul Pierce. Before I even go with Paul Pierce, last thing I'll say with T Mac though. The disrespect is so real because T Mac is no way in the world that Tracy McGrady, T Mac, is not on the NBA top 75. I know we talked about Dwight. Dwight should have been on there too, but T Mac should have been on there first ballot top 75 easy. I see about probably 10, 15 names that need to come off the list and let T Mac go on for sure. Now, somebody that was top 75 was Paul Pierce. Now, Paul Pierce, I don't know why he keep doing this. The conversation comes up again with him and Dwayne Wade. I don't know if Dwayne did something to this man. I don't know why Paul Pierce brings up D Wade. It don't make sense to me. That's not the best comparison. Paul Pierce, I wouldn't put Paul Pierce over Dwayne Wade. But what I'm seeing on socials that Paul Pierce was booty, y'all are drunk. Y'all tripping. I get it. Y'all, want to defend D Wade, and that was kind of wild for him to say Paul Pierce over Dwayne Wade. Like, if I had Shaq, I'd be able to get multiple rings too. Hey. Pump the brakes on that, Paul. But the truth, Paul Pierce, the truth, y'all don't know basketball. I'm seeing this so often now. A lot of people just don't know basketball. Paul Pierce may not have been better than D Wade, but Paul Pierce is one of the best. Like, during his era, it was Kobe and then Paul Pierce regarding footwork. Nobody talks about that. Paul Pierce is the black Luka Doncic. Paul Pierce was not the most athletic, but you was not stopping Paul Pierce from getting to where he wanted to go, and you was not stopping Paul Pierce from getting a bucket. Go do y'all research in y'all history. Paul Pierce was not booty. Put some respect on Paul Pierce's name, aka the truth. What's wrong with y'all? I get it. Y'all be thinking Paul Pierce corny and the stuff that he do and the stuff that he tweet and all this stuff. That's cool. Don't get it twisted for the game though. Don't get that twisted. Paul Pierce was the truth. really was a bucket. And you got to look at his whole career in totality. I get what he was saying. He didn't have the luxury like D Wade had and some other players had that played with Hall of Fame, all-star level players their whole career or a majority of their career or multiple times. Paul Pierce got KG, Ray Allen on the back end of their career. If Paul Pierce had KG and Ray with Rajon Rondo when they was at the top, I'm a Lakers fan, but the Celtics probably rack off 3 or 4 rings if they had Paul Pierce, KG, Ray Allen in their prime. So I get what Paul Pierce is saying. I get what he's alluding to. Is he better than D Wade? No. But chill out on the disrespect on Paul Pierce's name. And we talk about Dwayne Wade. Jeff Teague, shout out to Jeff Teague and they podcast. He's out there killing it. He's giving great storytelling. It's hilarious. Shout out to Jeff Teague, but I'm very sorry. James Harden over Dwayne Wade? I wouldn't take that in any world, any multiverse, any afterlife. I don't. James Harden over Dwayne Wade? I mean, I guess if you want to take the individual success, cool, take James. But Dwayne Wade has the rings, multiple rings. Dwayne Wade has 3-time all defensive. That alone. James Harden don't play D. 3-time all defensive for Dwayne Wade, by the way. And I'm a little confused. Jeff played in the league. I don't understand how he could say that James Harden didn't have some of the teammates that Dwayne Wade had. Dwayne Wade won that championship when Shaq was there. Like Jeff talking about, Harden is doing it by himself, getting it out the mud. Dwayne Wade had to do that. Shaq was at the back end of his career. Dwayne Wade won that championship when Shaq was there. He did it by himself. He drugged that team all the way to the finals and won. James Harden could never. Are we forgetting his teammates? CP3, KD, Russell Westbrook, Kyrie, KD again, had Russ twice, Joel Embiid. And now he want to get to the Clippers and go play with Paul George and Kawhi. Give me Dwayne Wade every single day of the week over James Harden. James Harden is great, but you're not putting him in my book. And I don't know many other books. I don't care who is the author. James Harden is not above Dwayne Wade. That cap has to stop. No, Jeff Teague, podcast is great. Can't get with you on that one. Now is different. As you can see, NBA players, we talking about $400 million contracts coming up. You seeing soccer, Mbappe, $776 million. Hey, I know, the people that was offered the money got kind of a checkered past, and they got some issues, and for your morale, you might not want to take that contract for 1 year though. I'm considering. I might have to talk to God, but $776 million, that's changing the next 10 to 15 generations. And the thing is, Mbappe is only 25, 26 years old. So that 776 for the 1 year, you go there and get another contract after that for $400 or $500 million, probably like 3 to 4 years, maybe 5. Then he'll only be 32, 33 by that point. He could get another contract. By the time, if Mbappe took that 776, by the time his career was done, he probably would have made on the pitch, just the pitch, not his off the pitch stuff that he got going on. 776 with all the other contracts that he would accumulate after that 1 year, he would probably hit around $2-3 billion in career earnings on the pitch. I guess, like they say, money isn't everything. But 1 year, I might have had to take that 776 for real. Y'all let me know in the comments if y'all would have took that 776, but I might have to. Hey, babe, I'm about to be in Saudi Arabia for a year. Call it a day. 776. Season ain't 365 days a year. Get that bread, but that's me. I know it's NFL players, specifically the running backs, that would love to get that bread. 776. Shoot, they love to get a little bit even more than just. Can I just get 14, 15, $16 million a year? I don't even need the 776. They just trying to get 14, 15, 16, 17, anything respectable. Because the average mean for the running backs right now is around what kickers and punters get. Yeah, that's wild disrespectful. But I'm going to look at it in a twofold way. First, I'm going to start with the owners. So Jim Irsay, he came out and said that the running backs are acting in bad faith. They're trying to negotiate in bad faith. I don't hear nothing from an owner in the NFL, a governor, whatever you call them, talking about negotiations in bad faith. All y'all do is negotiate in bad faith. There should be no place in the NFL game for a franchise tag at all. Point blank, period. And for those that don't know, the franchise tag started in around 92, 93, something like that, when the owner of the Broncos, before they signed the CBA, decided to hop on his private jet. He hopped on his PJ, went to New York, got there, went to the league offices and said, yo, I can't lose John Elway. We got to do something about this. And that is how the franchise tag was created, so that the Broncos could keep John Elway. And it was typically used after that really for just quarterbacks, the main important position. Now it's being abused on the running backs. You guys, the owners, negotiated in bad faith. Shouldn't be used at all in the game. And if y'all want to use it, it should only really be used on the quarterback, since that's so important. That's the number one position probably in all of sports. You can use it on that. That makes sense. But y'all trying to downgrade and having the collusion of degrading the running back position, y'all negotiate in bad faith. On the flip side, I'm a little pushed back. I want to see the numbers of who exactly voted, because reports came out when the CBA was passed. 500 plus players declined and did not vote on the CBA. And those 500 players, I could imagine there might be 2 or 3, 4 or 5, 10, 15, 20, who knows, running backs that didn't vote. This goes back to like middle school. If you're not going to vote, don't complain. So those that are complaining, I just would want to know as a reporter, if I'm at the training camps of the Giants and the Raiders and the Chargers and the Colts, did y'all vote on the CBA? Hey, I'm going to stop by Baltimore too. I'm going to stop by other teams and find out, did y'all vote on the CBA? Players going to take half of what they make and take huge pay cuts and want to get traded, and I deserve to be paid. I just got one question. Did y'all vote on the CBA? If y'all did, kudos. That's great. Boom. Y'all need to get everybody else on board, because that's the problem with the NFL. You look at the NBA specifically, they all be on the same page for the most part when it comes to voting for the CBA. In this regard, you don't see the numbers like that where it's 500 players that didn't vote. You don't see crazy numbers like that. More are voting when it comes to the NBA, CBA. NFL, it's hard to get them all together, especially with the different pay wages. Is a quarterback really going to care about the running back not getting paid? Am I going to vote for them to get paid more on the CBA? The running back position is extremely valuable. It's extremely valuable, and they know that. So this is a twofold thing. This is on the owners and the players. Y'all passed the CBA. And owners, y'all constantly negotiate in bad faith, and y'all constantly be colluding on multiple different things. This is just another thing that y'all colluding on. NFL, no fun league. When we look at the summer with the New York Giants, everybody got paid but Saquon. Andrew Thomas, $117.5 million over 5 years with $67 million fully guaranteed. Dexter Lawrence got 4 years, 90. Daniel Jones, he got 4 years, 160. Saquon, he signs a contract for 1 year. $11 million with $909,000 in incentives. There's 3 separate incentives that Saquon has to reach. Each are $303,000. So the first one, 1,350 yards rushing. He's never had that amount. I think last year was his career high when it was something around 1,200, 1,300 yards. That's the first time he's ever done that. 1,350 on the rushing yard aspect. 65 receptions and 11 total touchdowns. Oh, yeah, by the way, even if he hits all these numbers, it doesn't matter unless the Giants make the playoffs. Now, that's a whole nother episode if the Giants are a playoff team this year. But this is what I really want to get to when I talk about Saquon specifically this summer and how this was handled. Because, they had the running backs Zoom meeting and everything. The running back revolution will not be televised. It's not going to be televised. It ain't happening. And Saquon Barkley went on his media tour. Oh, I could say F the Giants. I could say this. I could go this way. I could not play this year. I got options. Saquon needs to fire his agents. The franchise tag was $10 million, 10.1, something like that, with no incentives. The contract he signed is basically the same thing with incentives based on the Giants making the playoffs. So if he doesn't hit the incentives, it's basically going to come down to a $10 million contract. You could have just signed a franchise tag. I'm lost. All of that talk to end up signing that anyway? If I'm Saquon, after the season, my agents are no longer going to have a job. How did I end up signing for less, essentially? Over still staying in the NFC East. Trayvon Diggs got paid 5 years, $97 million, up to $104 million in incentives. $21.25 million signing bonus. Diggs now is the 5th highest annually paid defensive back behind Denzel Ward, Jair Alexander, Marshawn Lattimore, and Marlon Humphrey. Cowboys got a pretty good contract for them. It looks good. They needed to keep Diggs in the NFC, specifically NFC East. Dallas should be good this year. They should be one of the playoff teams. Should be. But that's not enough for Dallas. Dallas, you want to look at, can y'all win a playoff game? Can y'all sniff the Super Bowl? That's the only thing that comes to mind with this contract. It's a good contract, team friendly. Diggs gets paid. Cowboys set it up where they got money to keep, money to spend later on. Good contract. I want to shout out, though. I mentioned the Giants and how their summer went. Everybody talks about Jeffrey Lurie as the best GM in all of the NFL, which is facts. But if you see what Joe Schoen has done since being in New York, he got to be the top 3, top 5. He got all his contract that he wanted to get this summer and brought Saquon back and gave him an incentive late in contract. Come here, Saquon. You could come back home. Come back home. You ain't got nowhere else to go. I locked up Danny Dimes. Sexy Dexy, I got him under contract. And I got Saquon. And I got probably the best blocker, left tackle in all of sports last season. And Andrew Thomas. And shout out to Andrew Thomas. The career started off a little shaky. You know, New York is tough. If you start off shaky, they're going to let you know. It was conversations of him being a bust. It was conversations of him, they going to have to trade. We're going to have to find somebody else. Andrew Thomas, according to PFF rating, that was number 1 at his position. That's a bad boy. And they need that. Danny Dimes needs that blocking. Saquon needs that blocking. Shout out to Joe Schoen. Hey, Jeffrey Lurie, Jeffrey Lurie's up there. He's number 1. But Joe Schoen needs some love too. He definitely top 3, top 5 for what he pulled off. Now, the big contract that everybody was talking about. Justin Herbert got paid handsomely. It's been quarterbacks getting paid this summer. Getting paid. Herbo, 5 years, $265.2 million, the highest paid annually NFL quarterback contract in general in the NFL history. It's a heavy backloaded contract. $133.7 million guaranteed, can go up to $193.7 with the injury guaranteed, and potentially overall $218.7 million guaranteed. Justin Herbert. Now, we all know that's the future. That's the face of that franchise. One of the top quarterbacks for years to come. With this contract, it presents we're going to need to see a playoff win. It presents in this time frame, I need a trip to the Super Bowl. And how this Chargers team is set up, it's not happening. There's no trip to the Super Bowl. There's no trip to the AFC Championship game. Just how the AFC is built. Pat Mahomes, the best ever to do it. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Russell Wilson. Expect Russ to have a bounce back year. Sean Payton, should he have said that? Some people said no. I personally liked it. I like Sean Payton being honest and let it be known. The shot specifically at the Jets, I think you need to just focus on your locker room. Make sure y'all get off to a good start. But what he said was facts. It was not all on Russell Wilson. It was a lot of hands in why the Broncos did not succeed last year. Russell Wilson isn't a bottom 15 quarterback. He's a top 15 quarterback. Expect Russell Wilson to bounce back this season. Sean Payton said all facts there. But back to Justin Herbert. We mentioned the Jets. Aaron Rodgers, who took $35 million less over the next 2 years and restructured his contract so the Jets could get more players to build out this team. I can see the Jets getting a Super Bowl before the Chargers do. In the next 2 to 5 years, however long A-Rod decides to stay there, I can see the Jets getting a Super Bowl, or at least get to the Super Bowl before the Chargers do. That Jets defense, the Jets offense, young, talented wide receivers, Aaron Rodgers there. Chargers ain't got that. So, of course, yeah, you had to pay Justin Herbert. Yes, you did. You had to pay Justin Herbert. I don't know if I would have paid him as the number one quarterback in the NFL because he's not even top 5 in my book. I got Lamar Jackson over him. Give me Lamar. Lamar got an MVP. Lamar got that playoff success. Give me Lamar Jackson before Justin Herbert. But I get it. You had to pay him. It makes sense. I'm looking forward to the Bengals. Y'all up next. What y'all gonna pay Joey B, Joe Burrow, a.k.a. Joe Shiesty? What y'all gonna pay him? Because they're notoriously, infamously known to not pay players. They're known for being cheap. They gotta pay Joe Burrow. I just wonder what Joe Burrow gets in his contract. Joe Burrow has to be higher paid than Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert got something, what? He said like 52.5 annually. It comes out to being. Joe Burrow got to get 53 to 55 per year. But Joe Burrow needs to have some playoff success too. We don't talk about it enough because he makes all the throws. He come back. He's beat Pat Mahomes 3 times. But Joe Burrow got some questions in the playoffs too. We just gonna have to be honest. Joe Burrow got some questions in the playoffs too. He needs to make sure that he show up in the playoffs. The defense has been playing good for them in the last couple playoff runs. Been playing better than what he's been playing. So the regular season got to match up with the postseason, Joe. Just saying that. Pointing that out. But after Joe get paid, Pat Mahomes. They're going to have to restructure that one. Because Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. Then you got to take a couple flights down before you start talking about who's next. And if anybody deserved the $55-60 million a year, it's Patrick Mahomes. I don't know if they do it because he want to build out the roster. He go on that Tom Brady route, trying to get as many players on the squad, trying to make sure you pay your star players, the Travis Kelce's of the world. But he deserves it. We'll end off with this. I watched that documentary. I don't know if any of y'all did. Watch the documentary, The Quarterback on Netflix. Seeing the behind the scenes and seeing them kind of in that human element, I'm rooting for Kirk Cousins, who he is off the field, trying to be the best version, the best man of God that he could be a family man. He takes off on Tuesday so he can spend time with his wife, so he could regroup. I love all of that. I'm rooting for Kirk Cousins to actually do well, for him to actually win a playoff game, win another one, put it under his belt. I don't know if they're going to the Super Bowl or that, but I'm rooting for him. Players like that you want to root for. Just like I mentioned in the beginning, Jaylen Brown, that's a player you want to root for. They care about the community. They care about their family. They have morals. They're focused on things like that. That's for me. I root for players like that. That put the work in. They study the film so that they could be ready anytime the opportunity comes. And I know the vibes here on Bench Mob Ent. If you stay ready, you don't got to get ready. Bench Mob Ent, Tone, Mr. Still Not Worried. I'm out. Peace.